I sat on the weathered cedar porch this morning, wrapped in an old wool shawl, watching the mist rise like slow breath from the pines. The world was softening at the edges, and in that hush it struck me with quiet force. I am 82 years old. Eleanor Whittaker. That's the name written on the faded mailbox, the name carved into birthday cards no one sends anymore, the name I still answer to even when the mirror shows a stranger. The house around me is large now, too large, and the silence that fills it is no longer mere absence. It is an archive, a living museum of echoes, footsteps that once thundered down the hallway, laughter that bounced off these walls, the low murmur of a voice I knew better than my own. All of them have faded into the wood grain and plaster. Over 8 decades, I have witnessed the world remake itself a dozen times. Horses gave way to automobiles, letters to glowing screens, neighborhoods to suburbs to emptiness. But the deeper change, the one that carved lines into my hands and hollowed my chest, was watching the people depart. My mother first, too soon, her perfume still lingering on a scarf I cannot bear to wash. My father, stoic until the end, slipping away while I held his calloused palm. My brother Tommy, who laughed like summer thunder, taken by a war that promised to end all wars. My dearest friends, Marjorie with her bright red lipstick, Paul who could fix anything with a piece of wire and patience, Ruth who knew every secret I ever tried to bury. They all crossed to the other side one by one. And then Daniel, my Daniel, the man whose breathing I could recognize in any room, whose hand fit mine as though it had been carved for that purpose alone. I thought we would grow old together in tandem like two trees whose roots had long since intertwined. I was wrong. He left 6 winters ago, quietly in the night, as if he didn't want to wake me. I still sleep on my side of the bed, leaving his pillow untouched. At 82, you become a kind of benevolent ghost. The young hurry past with their wireless earbuds and urgent strides, anxious about mortgages, likes, deadlines, things that from this porch appear as insubstantial as motes of dust caught in sunlight. Sometimes they pause, offer me a careful smile, ask in soft voices, "What is it like?" Others simply stare with that unmistakable mixture of curiosity and pity, as though outliving everyone is the saddest thing a person can do. They are mistaken. There is a secret granted only to those who reach this shore, a truth concealed until the tide has carried almost everything away. When the noise stops, when the calendar pages no longer turn with purpose, when the phone lies silent and the doorbell forgets how to ring, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is clarity. If you are still young, lean in and listen. If you are my age, pull up a chair beside me on this peeling gray porch. Let the morning chill settle on your skin while I tell you about the things that endure, the things that refuse to be sold, forgotten or buried. First, I have learned that possession is an illusion we spend decades believing. In my 30s and 40s, I measured my worth by accumulation, the house with the wide windows, the title on the office door, the savings account that grew like a slow green vine, the children whose report cards I framed as though they were diplomas of my own making. I polished those things the way one polishes silver, convinced they would last. Now I look down at these spotted, trembling hands and see they hold nothing. The house will pass to strangers who will paint over my wallpaper and tear out the rose bushes I planted in 1978. The career I sacrificed sleep for has been reduced to a footnote in someone else's LinkedIn profile. The children have their own lives now. Beautiful, messy, independent lives. And they no longer need me to hold the world steady for them. And yet, the emptiness of my palms does not feel like loss. It feels like liberation. What remains is not the thing itself, but the shape it pressed into your soul while you carried it. The patience you practiced when the deal fell through. The courage it took to apologize first. The quiet integrity you chose when no one was watching. Those are the only heirlooms that travel with you. Second, love is never ownership. It is only stewardship. Daniel and I raised 2 daughters and loved them with everything we had, yet we never truly possessed them. They were lent to us for seasons, first as infants who smelled of milk and talc, then as teenagers who slammed doors and wept over heartbreaks, then as adults who moved to cities with unfamiliar area codes. When I stopped trying to clutch, when I simply opened my hands and let them be, the ache of their leaving transformed. Grief no longer felt like theft. It became gratitude for borrowed time. For every scraped knee I kissed, every late-night conversation on the stairs, every holiday table crowded with voices, what remains is the love I poured out. Because love is the one currency that cannot be repossessed, taxed, or auctioned off in an estate sale. It lives in the memory of a hand brushing hair from a forehead, in the echo of "I love you" spoken at midnight, in the way a daughter still calls just to hear my voice, even though she knows I'll tell the same stories. Third, I have discovered that life is not the summits, but the long, ordinary valleys between them. When I was 30, I waited for the wedding, the first promotion, the dream trip to Tuscany. At 40, I chased the next milestone, convinced arrival would finally quiet the restlessness inside me. At 60, I began to understand the trick. The horizon keeps retreating. If I could step back into my younger skin for a single day, I would not ask for more achievements. I would ask for more presence. I would sit longer at the kitchen table while coffee cooled, watching steam curl like calligraphy. I would stand barefoot in the garden at dawn and really listen to the sparrows arguing in the lilac bush. I would hold Daniel's face between my palms and memorize the exact shade of hazel in his eyes before time could steal another shade away. What remains at the end is an album of small, radiant trifles that turned out to be the truest wealth. The smell of rain on warm pavement, the weight of a grandchild asleep on your chest, the sound of ice cubes settling in a glass on a summer evening. These are the treasures no one can take. Fourth, and this one arrived hardest, the solitude that follows loss is not punishment. It is invitation. My generation was raised to fill every hour. Work, committees, carpools, bridge nights. When the children left, when the friends grew quiet, when the calendar emptied, I was suddenly alone with the one person I had spent 60 years avoiding. Myself. At first I hated the company. The mind is noisy when there is no distraction. Regrets arrive like uninvited guests. Old mistakes replay in high definition. But knees that once ran trails now protest at the thought of escape. So I stayed, I sat, I listened. In that long sitting, something unexpected happened. I met Elena. Not the wife, not the mother, not the professional, but the woman underneath all the roles. I forgave her for the times she was impatient, for the years she chose duty over joy, for the nights she cried into her pillow because she felt invisible. I forgave her, and in forgiving I found friendship. What remains is an inner citadel, a sanctuary built not of brick, but of self-compassion. If you have not yet made peace with the person who shares your skin, old age will feel like exile. But if you have learned to sit comfortably in your own quiet, then solitude becomes the sweetest companion. Fifth, kindness is the only victory that does not leave you alone on the battlefield. Of course I carry regrets. Anyone who claims a spotless ledger is either deluded or dishonest. I regret the risks I never took, the novel I never submitted, the trip to Iceland I postponed until it was too late, the nights I chose silence when I should have spoken love aloud. But the deeper wound, the one that still stings in the small hours, is remorse for the moments I chose sharpness over softness, the cutting remark I made when I was tired, the grudge I nursed for years because being right felt safer than being vulnerable, the times I let pride win and kindness lose, as I watched the names in my address book dwindle, crossed out in careful blue ink. I understand at last. Being right is the coldest, loneliest crown a person can wear. Kindness, even when it costs you the argument, even when it leaves you exposed, is the only choice that echoes forward. So, if there is someone whose number you still have, call them today, not to prove a point, not to tally old scores, just to say, I'm glad you exist. I'm glad our paths crossed. Because one day, the line will ring into nothingness and the score will be irrelevant. Finally, there is a peculiar grace in becoming a bystander to the world's next chapter. I watch teenagers glide past on electric scooters, faces lit by screens, speaking a language I barely recognize. At first it stung, like being gently but firmly pushed to the margin. Then I understood. This is how it should be. The river does not pause for any single stone. My place now is to witness, to see my granddaughter's fierce curiosity and recognize the same spark that once lived in my mother's eyes, to watch my grandson run with the same abandon I once did across summer fields, to know that I am not the story's end, but one thread in an immense continuing weave. Letting go of the need to be central brings an unexpected freedom. I cheer from the sidelines now, and the cheering is sweeter than any spotlight ever was. So, what remains when the voices have gone quiet? When the chairs around the table stand empty? When the porch swing moves only with the wind? Gratitude. A fierce, tender, almost painful gratitude for the impossible gift of having been here at all. For every ordinary Tuesday, for love that arrived and love that left. For 29,930 mornings I opened my eyes and found the world still turning. I am 82, and the dark no longer frightens me. The light does not vanish. It simply moves into another room, another life, another pair of eyes. If these words have reached you, do not wait until the house grows this quiet to search for what endures. Begin today. It hides in the steam rising from your tea. It waits in the gaze of the person sitting beside you. It breathes in the pause between one heartbeat and the next. Thank you for resting here with me a little while. The porch feels warmer when someone shares it. If this moved you, pass it to someone whose presence still colors your days. And if you'd like, leave a thought below. What is one small, stubborn thing you have learned to hold close as the years lengthen? I read every word. Each one lights another lamp in these quiet rooms.